The year 480 BC stands as a monumental moment in the annals of ancient history. It was a time when the mighty Persian Empire, under the ambitious king Xerxes I, set its sights on the complete subjugation of Greece. The second Persian invasion of Greece was an enterprise of staggering scale, designed to crush the defiant city-states once and for all. Following the Persian victory at the heroic, yet doomed, stand at Thermopylae, the path to Athens lay open. The city of Athens, the heart of Attic culture and democracy, was evacuated in a desperate measure to save its people. Xerxes' forces marched into the deserted city, and in a symbolic act of dominance, they burned the Acropolis. The allied Greek fleet, having withdrawn from an indecisive engagement at Artemisium, gathered in the Saronic Gulf. They found refuge in the narrow straits separating the island of Salamis from the mainland. A palpable sense of dread and uncertainty hung over the Greek commanders. Many, particularly the Peloponnesian contingents, argued for a retreat to the Isthmus of Corinth. They believed a final stand to defend the Peloponnese was their only viable option. However, the Athenian statesman Themistocles possessed a different, more audacious vision. He was a brilliant, if sometimes controversial, political and military strategist. Themistocles understood that a land battle against the vast Persian army was a losing proposition. He argued passionately that Greece's salvation lay not on land, but at sea. The allied Greek fleet, though outnumbered, was a formidable force. It consisted of approximately 370 triremes, the most advanced warships of their time. Athens, having invested heavily in its navy thanks to Themistocles' foresight, provided the largest contingent. The Persian fleet, in stark contrast, was a colossal armada. Ancient sources claimed over 1,000 ships, though modern estimates suggest a more realistic 600 to 800 vessels. This still gave Xerxes a numerical advantage of at least 2 to 1. The Persian ships were drawn from across the empire, including skilled Phoenician, Egyptian, and Ionian sailors. Themistocles' strategy was simple in concept but brilliant in its application. Turn the Persians' greatest strength, their numbers, into a weakness. He knew that in the open sea, the faster, more numerous Persian ships would outmaneuver and overwhelm the Greeks. But in the confined, narrow straits of Salamis, the opposite would be true. The Persian armada would be unable to bring its full force to bear. They would become a disorganized, crowded mass, easy prey for the heavier Greek triremes. To enact this plan, Themistocles had to first convince his wavering allies and then lure the enemy into his trap. He resorted to a masterful piece of deception. He sent his trusted servant, Zycinus, to the Persian camp with a secret message for Xerxes. The message claimed that Themistocles secretly wished for a Persian victory. It stated that the Greeks were in disarray and planned to flee from Salamis under the cover of darkness. Themistocles urged Xerxes to block the straits immediately to trap the Greeks and achieve a decisive victory. Xerxes, eager to crush the Greeks and confident in his numerical superiority, fell for the ruse completely. He ordered his fleet to move into the straits during the night, blocking both exits. The Persian crews, having spent the entire night maneuvering in the dark, were already fatigued by dawn. To witness his anticipated triumph, Xerxes had a golden throne placed on the slopes of Mount Agaleo, overlooking the straits. From this vantage point, he would watch his navy annihilate the Greeks. As the sun rose, the Greek fleet, rather than fleeing, was revealed to be in perfect battle formation. The Persians, packed tightly into the narrow channel, realized they had been deceived. Panic and confusion began to ripple through the Persian lines. The Greek triremes, heavier and more robust, charged forward with a unified battle cry. The battle began in earnest. A brutal clash of wood, bronze, and men. The confined space turned the Persian numbers into a catastrophic liability. Ships were unable to maneuver, retreat, or effectively engage the enemy. The Greek crews, fighting for their homes and freedom, were relentless. They expertly rammed the vulnerable sides of the Persian vessels. Once a ship was disabled, Greek marines would board and engage in fierce hand-to-hand combat. The sea quickly filled with shattered timber, broken oars, and the bodies of the fallen. One notable figure in the battle was Artemisia, the queen of Caria and an ally of Xerxes. He had advised Xerxes against fighting in the straits, a warning he had ignored. During the chaos, her ship was pursued by a Greek trireme. In a desperate and cunning move, she ordered her ship to ram a friendly Persian vessel. The Greek captain, assuming she was either a Greek ship or a deserter, broke off the pursuit. Xerxes, watching from his throne, mistakenly believed she had sunk an enemy ship and praised her valor. He famously remarked, "My men have become women, and my women, men." Despite such isolated incidents of Persian prowess, the battle was a resounding Greek victory. Persian fleet was shattered, losing hundreds of ships and thousands of men. The Greeks, by contrast, lost only about 40 ships. From his hillside throne, Xerxes witnessed not a triumph, but a catastrophe. The sight of his invincible navy being annihilated was a profound shock. The strategic consequences were immediate and immense. With his naval supremacy broken, Xerxes could no longer guarantee supplies for his massive land army. The threat of the Greek fleet cutting off his bridge of boats across the Hellespont became very real. Fearing being trapped in Europe, Xerxes made the decision to retreat. He took the bulk of his army and the remnants of his fleet back to Asia. He left behind a substantial force under his general, Mardonius, to attempt to complete the conquest the following year. However, the momentum of the war had irrevocably shifted. The victory at Salamis galvanized the Greek city-states, filling them with a newfound confidence and unity. The following year, the allied Greeks would go on to defeat Mardonius's army at the Battle of Plataea. On the very same day, the Greek fleet destroyed the rest of the Persian navy at the Battle of Mycale. The Persian invasion was over, and the threat to mainland Greece was ended. The Battle of Salamis is rightly considered one of the most decisive naval battles in history. It was a victory of strategy over brute force, of cunning over confidence. Themistocles' brilliant deception and strategic genius had saved Greece from subjugation. The victory ensured the survival of Greek culture and political thought. The concepts of democracy, philosophy, and art that flourished in Athens were allowed to continue and develop. Had the Persians won at Salamis, the world we know today might be vastly different. The triumph marked the beginning of the ascendancy of Athens as the dominant power in the Aegean. It ushered in the golden age of Athens, a period of unparalleled cultural and intellectual achievement. The rowers of the fleet, mostly lower-class citizens, gained new political influence for their crucial role. This strengthened the foundations of Athenian democracy. The battle became a cornerstone of Western identity, a story of freedom against tyranny. It was a testament to what a determined and united people could achieve against overwhelming odds. The echoes of the oars striking the water in the Straits of Salamis resound through history. They tell a story of courage, ingenuity, and the indomitable will to be free. The initial Greek council was fraught with division and fear. The Spartan commander, Eurybiades, was the nominal head of the fleet but lacked Themistocles' strategic insight. Themistocles had to threaten to withdraw the entire Athenian fleet to force his strategy upon the allies. He famously told Eurybates, "Strike, but listen to me." The Persian fleet included ships with diverse designs, reflecting their varied origins. The Greek triremes, however, were more standardized, particularly the Athenian contingent. The bronze ram on the prow of a Greek trireme was its primary weapon. It was designed to punch through the hull of an enemy ship below the waterline. The night before the battle was tense for both sides. The Greeks knew that their fate would be decided at dawn. The Persians were confident, but their crews were weary from the night's patrol. The first clash was likely chaotic and brutal. The sound of splintering wood and shouting men would have been deafening. A Corinthian contingent was said to have initially held back, a sign of the lingering disunity. But as the Greek center held and pushed forward, they were drawn into the fray. The poet Aeschylus, who fought in the battle, later wrote a play about it called The Persians. His work provides a near-contemporary, albeit dramatic, account of the Persian perspective. He describes the Persian queen, Atossa, waiting anxiously for news of her son, Xerxes Gau. The messenger's arrival and his tale of woe formed the core of the play. The sea itself became an enemy to the Persians, clogged with their own disabled ships. Many Persian sailors who couldn't swim drowned in the chaos. The Greeks, fighting in home waters, were more likely to be able to swim to the shores of Salamis. Aristides, a political rival of Themistocles who had been exiled, was recalled before the battle. He commanded a force of hoplites on the shore of Salamis Island. His soldiers were crucial in slaughtering the Persian troops who ended up on the island. This prevented the Persians from establishing a foothold or rescuing their men. The defeat was a personal and political humiliation for Xerxes. He had brought the largest force ever assembled only to be defeated by a much smaller opponent. The morale of the Persian army, already strained by a long campaign, plummeted. The victory at Salamis was not just a military one. It was a profound psychological triumph. It proved that the Persian Empire, despite its immense resources, was not invincible. The Ionian Greek cities under Persian rule were inspired by the victory. This would lead to future revolts and the eventual liberation of Ionia. The battle highlighted the critical importance of naval power in the ancient Mediterranean. Athens' role in the victory cemented its position as the leading naval power of Greece. This power would be the foundation of its future empire, the Delian League. The memory of Salamis would be invoked by orators and writers for centuries to come. It became a powerful symbol of resistance against overwhelming force. The strategic use of terrain became a classic lesson in military academies. Themistocles' legacy, however, was complex. He was later ostracized from Athens. Ironically, he ended his life in the service of the Persian king, the son of Xerxes. But his actions at Salamis undeniably saved the Greek world. Battle was a brutal, close-quarters affair. Archers on the decks of both fleets rained down arrows on their opponents. The noise of the battle would have been a terrifying cacophony. The Greek hoplites, with their heavy bronze armor and large shields, had an advantage in boarding actions. Persian marines were often more lightly armored, relying on ranged weapons. The sea around the battle was said to be red with blood. The victory was a collective effort of many Greek city-states. The Aeginetans, in particular, were praised for their skill and bravery in the battle. After the battle, the Greeks collected their dead and repaired their damaged ships. A dispute arose over who had fought most bravely, a typical feature of interpolis relations. Ultimately, the prize for valor was awarded to the Aeginetans. while Themistocles was honored for his strategy. The Battle of Salamis was a powerful demonstration of how leadership and strategy can overcome numerical inferiority. It secured a future for a civilization that would fundamentally shape the course of human history.